3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting film journey here on Delusions of Grandeur, where we are about to go on about a film that Tanny brought to the table. Well, Tammy, why don't you tell us a little bit about the film, and is everybody ready to go to their happy place?
Well,
Mm,
the
I live
film
in
is called
having
Song
place.
of the South, and it was done in 1946. It's mainly live action, but it has some animated in it. The basis of it is Uncle Remus and his stories, and Uncle Remus is played by James Baskett, and actually this was his final film role. It takes
Oh,
place in Georgia during the period of American history after the end of the American Civil War.
I believe they would call it the Reconstruction period.
So most of his stories are about Briar Rabbit and his adventures with Briar Fox and Briar Bear. And
And the original writer of the stories was his name was Joel Chandler Harris. So I believe the original stories weren't they Uncle Tom's Cabin or something like that?
no,
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 completely different.
that was written around at that time period too. So
Briar Rabbit is a bunch of stories, and that are all African American, African folklore and stuff, and some other races as well.
well, the first time I saw this was just um, many years ago. Was evidently when they re-released it for at the theaters in 1980, and my great grandmother, who I called my nana, took me to see it, and we had a most wonderful day. So my mom came to pick me up. My mother found out that my nana took me to see this movie, and my mother's very racist, very prejudiced, and she started screaming at my nana and calling her. I don't like the N word. She called her an N word lover, and um, basically told my nana that I could never come over there again because she took me to this movie,
Gee.
and that created quite a rift in the whole family for a little bit. And at that time, I was, what, 8 years old. I did and I didn't understand all this stuff at the time. I knew that my mom said those not nice words, and I know how she said not nice things about people of color, also people that were Mexican, people that were anything else. But she really, really was nasty if you were black, very nasty. And um, as a kid, I really didn't understand all of this. But I didn't think it was right, and it caused a lot of controversy with me growing up. And I think this film is what started a lot of the controversy, but I didn't realize it then, you know, because I couldn't
The
understand.
film didn't cause it; your mother did.
Right, my mother did, but I think everything kind of escalated with how I felt about other people compared to how she felt, and it all kind of escalated after seeing this.
Yeah,
I couldn't understand what was so bad about it, what was so wrong
I
about it.
100% agree with you. There's nothing wrong with it. Only racists think there was something wrong with it.
But the film itself, I thoroughly enjoyed. I had such a wonderful day with my nana watching it, and my nana enjoyed it. I could tell very much, and I know neither one of us thought anything bad of it or anything bad of anybody in it. We just enjoyed the stories that Uncle Remus told and everything. It was, I think my Nana basically thought of it as a nice family, a kid film type of thing. That's why she took me to see it.
Yeah, I mean it's a Disney film. Of course, it's for kids.
Right, and it's got lessons in it.
Exactly.
And
Your mother needed to watch it and study it, so she could learn a thing or two.
yeah, well, I'm just glad I didn't grow up like her, even though she tried.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
wonder what your mother says nowadays when everything in the media is all about political correctness and
Unfortunately, she passed away a month
oh
from her stepfather. How many years ago?
11 years now.
I'm so sorry, I forgot.
That's okay. But yeah, I think if she wasn't creeping, well, I'm surprised the urn out from the living room hasn't exploded by now because of all the stuff that's going on in the world today. And I could just imagine her comments about things and everything. So I'm glad. I hate to say it. I'm glad she isn't here anymore because I heard enough of all of it growing up. I really don't want. I wouldn't want to hear anymore.
Mm, I understand.
So
My mom loved all kinds of people. Didn't matter race, sex, whatever.
but that's how my Nana was, and that's why it was so hurtful to me when my mom went off on my Nana like that. My Nana didn't care what color you were, what religion you were. She was like
And she grew up in the time period where it was more likely that she would care too, whereas your mother did not.
my real grandfather brought my mother and my uncle up to be the way they were.
No excuse.
So,
You didn't turn out that way, and your mother tried to bring you up that way.
oh no, I didn't. Thank goodness I didn't because there was a school I went to where I was the minority, and I looked one day and I said, "If I go to school acting and talking like you, I won't come home. Is that what you want?" So yes, I honestly don't know how my mother did not end up gone before she was gone because of her attitude and her antics.
Right.
You don't act the way she did at times when you are the minority in the area where you're living.
Shouldn't act that way, period. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, you shouldn't act that way, period.
For health reasons, she shouldn't act that way.
Let's put it this way: she was working on the Grand Prix, which is now mine, and we lived in an area where the house next to us had two black families. The one on the other side was black and Mexican, and most of the families around us were either or. And she had been spray painting stuff underneath the car, and she had her blonde hair, so she had these black streaks in her hair and silver from painting under the car, and her hands were all full of black stuff from doing stuff in the car. She walks out of the garage and she's in the middle of the alley, and she goes, "Oh, now I fit in." I
Wow.
Yeah, I just my eyes bulged, my jaw dropped, and I'm like, I'm getting out of here.
Oh.
I couldn't believe she did that.
Fuck.
Well, uh, yeah, although I would say her actions were her, you should have never been embarrassed for her actions which you had no control over.
But when
It's
I was
just
a
Yeah,
kid,
but
when you're a
parents always.
Yeah, but she wasn't thinking about the ramifications. Like, what if like someone decided to get woke right there and there and be like, okay, let's take care of this situation,
Well, I
but
wouldn't say that's
or
being
uh,
woke. That's the difference.
they could have taken it out on me too. So she didn't think about
yep,
that.
Guilty by
oh,
association.
yep.
yeah, good point.
But in any
But anyway,
case,
let's get back to the movie because the movie is actually, I think it's a very good movie. I think it's got some very good lessons for kids in it, and I think how they do the
Aye.
lessons is very cute and very neat. And I think it just I th- I think it just shows a whole range of different people and cultures in it, but not in a bad way. That's the way I look at it. So who
and I
wants to
agree
go
with
next?
Floyd Norman on the whole thing. Back in 2020, he was saying the mouse should release it. So, but anyways,
There's a lot of other
er,
films out there that are a lot more controversial, and one film that I actually like a lot, Django, is very very controversial. Well, how come that one can be released? I don't get it. Just don't get it.
Because the whole crowd hadn't gotten to that one yet.
but first impression.
There was a whole crowd after Blazing Saddles too, and that was a comedy.
People are stupid.
Well, who wants to
People
go
are
next? Come on,
strange.
guys. Somebody go. Okay,
uh,
KG, you go.
was this a first time watch for you?
Yeah, this was the first time I watched this movie in its entirety. Some of the clips of the movie have floated around, certain pieces like when they're singing like the Zippity Doo song, um, stuff like that I've seen, but I've never watched the movie. The movie has always had this controversial kind of tag put on it, and it's like, oh, this movie is very racist and X, Y, and Z, and I don't know. It was a musical too, so I don't really care for musicals, so it's not kind of movie I was gonna like say, oh yeah, I gotta see that movie right now, you know. But I knew of the movie. I at least said I knew of it. So when I got to watch it with fresh eyes, I kind of was sitting there the whole time thinking to myself, this is controversial. This movie, literally, this movie plays like just about almost any 40s family movie kind of mixed with a musical, and it's from Disney. So, of course, I mean, it's no different than like if you ever saw the movie Cabin in the Sky. Like, to me, it's no different than that kind of a film, which is also a musical that is completely revolved around African American characters. But, the one thing I kind of liked about this movie was it really was kind of like a father son movie, low key, because Uncle Remus played basically a pseudo father to the little boy. I forgot his name, but
Johnny.
Johnny,
Johnny.
Johnny, yeah, he played like a pseudo father to him when his real father was, off and away and doing whatever he was doing, you know. And I guess the one somewhat racist aspect of it, I guess if you can really call it that, is the way that the workers, because people always say that they're slaves, and really this movie is set during the Reconstruction era, so they were free people working, for this family. Um, the relationship between them, they seem happy, kind of are content doing what they're doing. I guess I can see how the crowd today would say, well, that comes off racist
Well, and one of
because,
the mistaken beliefs was that this was set like during slavery.
right,
It's not.
right. No, it's set during the Reconstruction era. So they're free. They can leave if they want to, which is why when Uncle Raymond says, I'm thinking about leaving or he intends to
But
leave,
why when their cushion is so good?
The, the, the grandmother was really nice too. I mean, she like patted both boys and she treated the other boy, almost like family too,
Like
and
family, yeah.
she was never mean with any of the workers or anything. So I think that's why they didn't mind working for them. They
Yeah.
they might have been former slaves. I mean, that's what it sounds like. Like at least like the woman, like she was like a former slave. So they went from becoming slaves to still being in the same place, but now is getting paid for it. So
Right, yeah. So I mean, it's interesting that people try to take that kind of criticism towards the movie without bringing some
it's so
context to
stupid.
it. But then again, um, the woke crowd or the I don't know what to call them. Honestly, they come
Well,
off like a
what
mob, but but
I'll go into the
Board
controversy.
housewives, that's what you call them. Board
yeah,
I'll
white
go into
housewives.
I'll go into the controversy a
Well, one
little bit
thing I wanted to
because you
say,
do have to talk about that.
right,
one
okay,
one thing I wanted to say is I thought it was really cute that right off the bat, and that's what kind of gets me mad about this controversy thing is right off the bat, his friend Toby. Nobody treated like you were saying. Nobody treated Toby any different, and nobody thought anything of the two of those boys playing together. Nobody.
Nope.
Uh,
Even
Well, I would say
even
this.
uh,
I would say
even
this. It is common because I'm from the South. It is common, or at least it was common in those times, for children to play together until a certain age, and then they'll split them off and basically segregate them to this is your
uh,
role and this is your role. You know,
Re-
but what
really?
yes, no, legit. Usually for boys, I think the age was around 12 or 13 that they would play with black children or black kids or boys their age. And then the father would take the son, usually, and begin to teach them what their role in that family was going to be, whether it be taking over the plantation after he had died or whatever the case may be. But they would separate them. And then this is your role and this is your role. Basically, the boy might go in the fields if he's African American, and the white boy would basically be going to learn how to take care of the family business or a role in that business. So it is something that took place. Kids did get to be able to play together. But I guess what I do like about this is what you guys have already brought up is, you know, they didn't treat the kid any different, the black kid. They didn't treat him any different.
no,
Uh,
even the bullies didn't even bother him. They just were bothering Johnny. So
Johnny, right.
yeah, yeah.
so it
But but I don't
wasn't
want to be
a
too
race
long
at
winded,
all. They just didn't like the thing. They
So
just didn't like Johnny for whatever reason.
right.
I think because Johnny was upper class.
Yeah,
Right.
And
yeah, yeah. And of course, wearing the lace on his outfit did not help at all.
no,
I
Right.
definitely agreed with the kids and with Johnny that was horrible.
It's funny though. What happened to Johnny is happening to Johnny's now. It literally is happening to Johnny. If you're doing very well for yourself, and you can be white or any other color, you're gonna have a lot of the bully boys coming around wanting to push you around because they don't like the fact that you're living better than them for whatever the reason may be.
Jealousy.
Well, yeah,
Jealousy. Yeah.
those boys and that family on that farm were kind of to show you like there was levels to the class that
Exactly.
was in the neighborhood, because they were probably a farm that was on the plantation that helped the plantation, but
Hmm.
Right.
still lived lower level than the class that Johnny and his family lived in. So
Yeah. So, but
well,
then
go
in
ahead with
short,
what
yeah. There
do
was
you
just in
still want
short
to.
though. I like the film, and again, I do think that it is like a father son movie. If people
go
actually
ahead and
kind of
finish.
looked at it from that standpoint, I think it would have been better
And,
received.
another thing is they all called Remus Uncle Remus. Everyone, even the adults, and
Mm,
that's an honorable title, and so that's how can that be racist at all? They're calling him Uncle Remus. Remus. Even the father called him that. Like
yeah.
everybody called him Uncle Remus. So, calling someone your uncle, whether they're blood related or not, is an honor, and that certainly is something not even close to being racist. You wouldn't, if you were racist against someone, you wouldn't be calling them your uncle.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
David, before you get into what you were going to do, let's get all the intros done.
Yeah, sure. I think it's definitely important to get everybody's thoughts, and then we'll go into the controversy a little bit, and then I figure we'll go into the plot after that. So, um, is that basically the rest of your first impression then, KJ?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Heading over to you, Crow. Was this a first time watch for you?
Um, I thought it was. I didn't remember seeing it. Okay, but then watching it, I remember a lot of the Bird Riot and Brer Rabbit. I know I read the Brer Rabbit books. Um, but I think I might have seen the movie. I certainly know Zippity Doo, and I could have sworn that came from. I knew it was Disney, but I could have sworn it came from something else. Um, I remember Bear singing it, but I thought it was like the Jamboree thing or something. I don't know.
I
Memories
remember doing it in chorus in school.
definitely hazy, but I've sang the Zippity Doo to my mother, sang it a billion times. I've sang it probably a billion times, and I just didn't realize it came from this movie. So I think I might have seen it as a child once.
I was in chorus in
Didn't
school
remember.
and we did the song Zippity Doo Dah.
Just not positive. If I had seen it, it would have definitely been probably the early '80s or whatever when I saw it. Um, but yeah, totally remember the Zippity Doo Dah. Like I said, I didn't realize it was from this movie. Which I do. I'm like, oh, Zippity Doo Dah, and I was singing along with it. Um, it's I don't particularly like the song. I mean, it's just not a lot to it. I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's super catchy. It's just kind of annoying, but it's super catchy. And like KJ said, I'm not a big fan of musicals. Um, it depends. I mean, there's some that are really great, but this was just kind of a family friendly musical, which, you know, just not particularly my thing. I like some family movies. I love Disney. It just this one, not in particular. But there's nothing wrong with the movie. It was a good movie. I mean, I did enjoy watching it, even it's not really my cup of tea, but it was definitely a good movie. As far as controversy, it's like why, just controversy for the sake of having controversy. I mean, I had a little trouble understanding the accent, the southern accent, but not just from the black people, like all of them. They're just the southern accent's harder. I mean, I read Tom Sawyer, and that was one of the hardest reads I ever read, and that was just mostly because of the southern accent of the time. So, you know, that was my only issue, but that has absolutely nothing to do with
Yeah, I found Huckleberry Finn a little bit more harder to read than Tom Sawyer,
Tom.
but I get what you're saying.
It goes all the same. Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn's on it, and they're all the kids, the adults. They're all. It's hard to read. I had to read it and then reread it quite a few times, which I normally don't need to do in books. So, I still read it pretty quick, but yeah, it was definitely the toughest read I've had. But and this movie had a lot of the same type of language and the way they talked and misused words, and they kind of talk like Dave does. Yeah. But yeah,
Too
it
cheap for you.
was it was still an enjoyable movie, and just like normal. I don't get the controversy, but you know.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Boris. Was this a first time watch for you?
Yeah, yes, it was the first time, and as far as the controversy goes, just like Kroll says, I didn't see any of it. I didn't think the movie was racist or anything like that. When you guys mentioned we would be watching this movie, and when you said there were some controversies, I expected something much worse than this.
Right.
uh, yeah. Although, as far as the movie itself goes, yeah, again, as Kroll says, it's not the type of movie I would normally choose to watch for myself. It's maybe not my cup of tea, but yeah, it is a good movie. It's a good movie for children with some good messages. Yeah, and the combination of live action and animation was interestingly done. And
I
uh,
know it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, not to interrupt you, but I kind of wanted to see what everybody's opinion was at this time of, at this time in
oh,
2022.
I just feel
There,
bad for the poor fox. I mean, all he wanted was some rabbit stew.
I just, I just wanted to, I know it's like I said, not everybody's cup of tea. I just, like I said, I wanted to see how everybody at this day and age felt about this movie and felt about what they said and the controversy and everything, and see where everybody was at with it,
oh,
compared to back then,
Well,
uh,
we're pretty open minded people, so
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure that Song of the South was and actually played on the Disney Channel during the 90s at least once or twice because my mom taped a copy of Song of the South. You know, you could fit like 3 to 4 movies on a VHS tape. And
we're fit
you
for
could
it.
rewatch them over and over and over. Well, Song of the South was one of those, and it was during my childhood, especially a rememberable film. At the age of 3, my parents took me to Disney World. And then when I was 7 or 8. So I did actually go on the Loggers Run ride of Splash Mountain, which the entire ride is based on the animated sections of this particular film. I also remember seeing various characters like the Tar Baby and Briar Bear and Briar Fox showing up in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So, uh,
Zippity doo.
and some people like Tammy here were under the mistaken identity that Mary
Mistaken
Poppins was
identity.
first.
Did you
Was
say
the first
mistaken
live
identity?
animation by Disney with live action characters. No, this was probably the first. Um, I don't remember any other films that had live action people and live action animation sprung together like
but they don't acknowledge this one.
Uh, uh,
but they don't acknowledge
what
this one. In fact, they shove it under
what
like it doesn't
uh,
exist.
uh,
They'll acknowledge
what
it or not.
about
It's still first.
what about okay, that's much newer, but I remember the movie Enchanted. That one also mixed animation and live
We're talking
action.
about what was the first one, not the latest one.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
She always heard that Mary Poppins was the first one that did that kind of stuff, and yeah, no, this one was like 30 years like before. So,
30
and
years
to
before.
be
I
honest,
don't think so.
if you clean this film up, you could definitely see the stages back behind, and you could probably almost see the green screen effects if this film was actually like bright as fuck and not as like uh unfocused as you see it. So I actually kind of like that it is kind of fuzzy because some of the effects haven't aged the best, but I do enjoy the film in its
Mary
entirety.
Poppins is only
I do
20
not
years,
see
20 years later, Dave.
the racism that people say is in it. I just
Wait,
don't.
wait,
Maybe
wait.
that's because I'm white. Uh,
No.
probably is.
Philippe, was Philippe done?
Uh, well, uh, let's see if I had anything else to say. If I did, I don't remember exactly, but basically, yeah, I was going to say it's a good movie for children. I would say, even though it's old, I believe children nowadays could enjoy it too.
Oh yeah.
I agree. I think children nowadays would enjoy it too.
Yeah.
Because I know,
And I think people would be able to handle it. It's it's not quite the movie that it was slandered out to be. So, but
Yeah.
let's go into the controversy a little bit. There are several things that I do want to bring to light. First, uh, culture historian Jason Spurb describes the film as one of Hollywood's most resilient, offensive, racist texts.
Ah.
And Spurb, Neil Gabler, and other critics noted the film's release as being one in the wake of the Double V campaign, a propaganda campaign in the United States during World War II to promote victory over racism in the United States and its armed forces and victory over fascism abroad. What do y'all think about
Say that again.
that? Okay, so Jason Spurb describes the film as one of Hollywood's most resiliently offensive racist texts. Spurb, Neil Gabler, and other critics have noted the film's release as being in the wake of the Double V campaign, a propaganda campaign in the United States during World War II to promote victory over racism in the United States and its armed forces and victory over fascism abroad.
Oh,
Evidently,
okay. You know what I think about that?
what about you, KJ?
I'll say this. I understand how people use movies and stuff for a lot of different reasons, whether it be coping or propaganda or any reason, make them feel good, whatever the case may be, to entertain themselves. But not every movie is going to be trying to right the wrongs of something that happened in history. I look at this movie as no different than that because this movie is simply a movie trying to entertain people. Um,
Yep.
for an hour and 30 minutes. And I'll say this even further about this movie. I mean, it's a musical, it's a movie that's supposed to, you know,
Inspire.
I guess you can use the word inspire. It's to entertain kids. I mean, it's to entertain children, and you take the Brer Rabbit story, which so many kids heard, growing up, whether they were white or black or any race, and you're putting this into an hour and 30 minutes with Uncle Remus. I don't know. I don't view it as a movie that I can say, yeah, this movie needs to try and show slavery and racism for what they really, were. You know, that's not something that's going to be kid friendly anyway, you know? So the critic who's trying to say, I think that a lot of those movies didn't try to do anything for racism or to show the horrors of it, you have to understand your constituents. In the 1940s and 1950s, look, a lot of people wasn't trying to see that stuff. I mean, we're just going to be clear. It's just the way things were. Now as we have advanced in society and as people have gotten older and wiser, they realize, okay, you know what, there was errors in these ways. And you can try to maybe try and correct some of that now moving forward. But I don't know, when was that article even written? Or when did the critic even make his criticism? Like, when was this taken?
Well, that is not exactly ascertained, but there is a later criticism that eventually takes flight by newspapers abroad that I'll get into in a moment. But I do want to bring up the fact that, um, so like Harris's book, the Disney company has stated that the film takes place after the American Civil War and that all the African characters in the movie are no longer slaves. At the time, a specific office by the name of the Hayes office had asked Disney to be certain that the front piece of the book mentioned establishes the date in the 1870s. However, in the final product of the film, it carried no such statement, and that was a mistake on Disney's fault. That they didn't make that part clear. You know
Right.
that it was specifically in 1870.
One thing I wanted to mention too about the times when this was released, that um Atlanta was racially segregated. So Uncle Remus, the gentleman that plays Uncle Remus, was not
Was
even
not even
allowed.
allowed at the premiere.
No, and that was
Mm.
sad.
I mean, it was no different than what happened with Hattie McDaniel and Gone with the Wind. I mean, if it wasn't for Clark Gable, I mean, she would have never even been able to go to the Oscars. You know.
Okay, so this is the next thing that kind of like snowballs the whole film into like this whole like segregated thing. So when the film was first released, Walter Francis Wright, the executive secretary of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, otherwise known as the NAACP, telegraphed major newspapers around the country with the following statement, erroneously claiming that the film depicted an antebellum setting. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People recognizes in Song of the South remarkable artistic merit in the music and in the combination of living actors and the cartoon technique. It regrets, however, that in an effort neither to offend audiences in the North or South, the production helps to perpetuate a dangerously glorified picture of slavery. Making use of the beautiful Uncle Remus folklore Song of the South, unfortunately, gives the impression of an idyllic master slave relationship, which is a distortion of the facts. White had not yet seen the film. His statement was based on memos he received from two NAACP staff members, Norma Jensen and Hope Springarn, who attended a press screening on November 20th, 1946. Jensen had written the film was so artistically beautiful that it is difficult to be provoked over the cliches, but said it contained all the cliches in the book. Springarn listed several things she found objectionable from the film, including the use of African American English. Jim Hill Media stated that both Jensen and Springarn were confused by the film's reconstruction setting, writing it was something that also confused other reviewers who, from the tone of the film and the type of similar recent Hollywood movies, assumed it must also be set during the time of slavery. So, based on the Jensen and Springer memos, White released the official position of the NACP in a telegram that was widely quoted to newspapers. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times made a similar assumption, writing that the movie was a travesty on the antebellum South.
I think some of that we have to take into account, even with critics. We see it with a lot of movies. Like recently, a movie called Blonde. A lot of critics panned that movie before it even got shown on Netflix, and a lot of people ran with that. You know, if you actually watch the movie, it's actually a very well made film. I think the same even could be said about Song of the South because Song of the South is not a bad movie. I don't
Nope.
think that there's anything in Song of the South that one could leave saying, "Yeah, I look at black people this type of way. I look at people this type of way." There are no messages being projected visibly. I mean, you'd have to really look for it, and I think that a lot of people are trying to scrape the barrel on this movie. Um,
Hmm.
I guess in a weird way because of movies like Gone with the Wind. They don't like the fact that those kind of movies get the kind of love and adoration that they do. And Song of the South is very much in the same family as Gone with the Wind. You know,
I guess
um,
before I had even gotten to our Delusions of Grandeur message area this morning, I guess Boris was reading some of the controversial stuff, and he interpreted some of it as so. What is it? The fact that the white people weren't racist?
Right. I mean, it's like when people complain about
Yeah,
Django Unchained having too many uses of the N word. Did you think that they were using any other words to call these people to get their attention? I mean, seriously. I mean,
yeah,
seriously.
on one hand, they complain about, as they say, distortion of the facts, but on the other hand, if the movie actually did portray the situation the way it was, then what would have, then how would they act in that case? Then they would have attacked the movie for racism, for using the N word, and so on, in spite of the fact that uh, those are historical facts. And now they
Yeah,
complain about. See what I'm trying to say?
yeah, I see what you're trying to say. No matter what, those the slander of the film then snowballed into a congressman by the name of Adam Clayton Powell Jr., branding the film as an insult to American minorities, everything that America is as a whole stands for. And then the National Negro Congress, sorry for saying that name, but set up picket lines in theaters in the big cities where the film played, with its protesters holding signs that read Song of the South as an insult to the Negro people and lampooning jingle bells, chanting Disney tells lies about the South.
Well, like I said, I mean, people have to understand, like, these movies, they're not responsible for the history of our country and what happened.
Mm,
I mean, you can't expect the movie to always show it like how it is. It's a movie at the end of the day. It's fiction, you know. Um, and if they did try to show things the way that they were in Song of the South, again, like I said earlier, it wouldn't be a kids movie. You know, it wouldn't be. And
uh, yeah,
I
pretty
mean, it
much.
really would be. I mean, if you, that's why I say people have to kind of, when you're watching films like this, you have to have kind of blinders or a little bit of disbelief because okay, we know that sure, certain relationships between African Americans and between whites were not that great, but the movie is trying to teach us some moral lessons that anybody of any color and any race can take and use in their everyday life. Anybody, if you're Mexican, Asian, black, white, whatever, you can watch this movie and take something from it, literally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
then on April 2nd,
especially if you.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, especially since you, KJ, since we know that you are a black person, if
Right.
you have nothing to complain about regarding this movie, then other people should honestly shut up as well.
Mhm.
Well, I'll say this, boys. I mean, a lot of people are sensitive, and we do live in a very sensitive time. And people look for any reason to be upset now, any reason.
Um,
And
Yeah,
it's
you can
sad.
look at someone the wrong way or breathe at someone the wrong way, and they'll be like, "Okay, that's racist."
Like, seriously, you can tell
yeah,
somebody, I like vanilla ice cream compared to chocolate ice cream, and they might find some kind of racist connotation. Oh, so you saying that you like white more than you like black? I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm not joking. Like, there are people out there who have
yeah,
these sensitive tendencies, man.
It's
Sad.
uh,
it's just sad that this was so at that time when this came out. It's sad that people were thinking that way and reading that into this movie at
Yep.
that time.
On
This
April
was
2nd, 1947, a group of protesters marched around Oakland, California's Paramount Theater with picket signs reading, "We want films on democracy, not slavery, and don't prejudice children's minds with films like this." And the National Jewish Post then scorned the fact that the film's lead was not allowed to attend its premiere. So,
And I do have
um,
issue
okay,
with that.
yeah, yeah, that's what I was going to
but
say.
criticisms on the black press largely objected to the reinforcement of stereotypes, such as the subservient status of black characters, costuming the exaggerated dialect and other archaic depictions of black people. So that's all I
Well,
have to say about the time.
the story is set in that time period, so I guess uh, that's why we see black people working for white people because that's how it was back then, I suppose.
Well,
Yeah.
even at the time when the Civil War had ended, I mean, and slaves were pronounced free. You don't think that the slaves were just going to pick up and go like, "Hey, we're free from our bondage. Let's leave the plantation. Let's go on, go find work elsewhere." No, most of them were still cushy in their jobs enough to probably still continue in their everyday lives. Some of them did do that, and they
If they
moved.
were mistreated, I could see they probably left. But
Yes.
if they were treated decently, and they were freed, like why would they leave? That's their home. That's their, everybody lives there, and probably the other people aren't leaving. So why would they leave? I mean, if they were treated bad, that yeah, they probably left. But the majority probably were not treated that as bad. I mean, I don't know. I don't, but I'm just assuming that especially the ones that stayed, they weren't treated bad. And although we see movies like Roots and another thing where you see them treated really badly, but is that the normal, or is that the exception? I'd rather think that that's more the exception than the rule.
I would like to think that a lot of plantation workers, especially ones that worked within the household, decided to stay because they were with working in the household. They probably had become, in a way, part of the family.
Well, yeah, especially like the nanny, like a lot of times the nanny would be more like almost like a mother more than the actual mother, depending on how active that the mother was in raising the
Of
child.
Right.
course,
But
one thing I could say is one thing that I can say in the negative, I guess, about the film is at the time there were probably indentured servants like from other countries still um, at this time, and you almost wonder why they just picked an entire cast of black characters to play the servants. I wish they would have had a little bit of a diversity, maybe just a little
they
bit.
didn't think of that in 1940s, dude.
No, they
That's a
weren't.
new thing.
But that's the only thing I can say
And
now.
it wasn't it wasn't a fucking issue then, and that's why they didn't think of it, because it wasn't a fucking issue.
Well, no, it
And
was.
I personally don't think it should be an issue now.
Well, no, no. Sometimes diversity can be good, and sometimes it can be bad. So
I have no problem when things are the only my only issue is when main characters, major characters are changed for no reason other
Oh,
than to be diversified. It's
oh,
like
oh, exactly like what they did with Anita in the new Cruella movie.
or films to just use skinny people and just don't make it look like natural life and like shame people for typecasting them.
that is true. That is true. They
So
don't
I mean,
that doesn't really that doesn't really get mentioned as often, but that is definitely true. They will definitely or they'll make them look good.
I'm a little bit more
Like we
reality
mentioned when we
because some of
saw
us.
Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde were not that good looking, but when they cast them, they cast them as very good looking
Yeah.
to
Uh,
romanticize them and to make them, um,
And then
you
people
know,
want to go to a movie, and a lot of people they are what's the word I mean they're visual. People are visual. So when they go, I mean they know, okay, people want to see people that look kind of like this. They kind of want to see people like that, which is why I guess I kind of do appreciate the 70s because you begin to see in the 70s onward more people who look a lot more natural being either the lead of a movie or being in a very important role in a film compared to the all glammed up, glossed up dude or girl. Um, but yeah, no, you got a point.
Hey, though, when I saw Merlin, I was just like, wow, Merlin's kind of ugly. But I got used to it, and it's a great show. So, you know,
Right,
I got used to it, and he's a great freaking actor.
right. I mean, look, I love The Sopranos. I mean, James Gandolfini wasn't the best looking guy in the world, but I mean, he was
No.
fucking amazing as Tony Soprano. I mean,
Right.
Well, after I saw a couple of the Sidney Poitier movies, we watched a whole bunch of them, and I have so much respect for that man. He is great. He is a great actor, and
yeah,
he went through a lot to get where he was. At the
yeah,
time.
yeah. No, Sydney's great, man. You
Oh
know,
yeah, I think he was a phenomenal director too. So,
mm,
but that's besides the point. We haven't even gotten into the plot line here. So, um,
Yeah.
let's start getting into that. So we have a journey that evidently is set forth by um, I believe we have the little boy by the name of Johnny, and his mother and father are bringing him to his grandmother's plantation for, I guess, the summer vacation, at least what he believes. But his father, um, in fact, has a newspaper post position that he needs to go back to, or feels that he needs to go back to. And so there is a tearful goodbye, and we see the father give him like this uh, really nice message of goodbye.
Mm.
And I guess the mother stays behind, and she says she has to, even
Don't
though,
leave, Daddy. Don't leave.
Y-
and that's that. He leaves. What do
mm.
y'all think about that very beginning, meeting mama, dad, kid?
I thought it was just kind of odd. Why would he drop his son off there to go back to work? They had no
Uh,
context as to why he would do that. Like, why
uh,
would they be bringing the kid there and have the mother take care of it? And why did the wife stay? And then she kissed him. Like, it didn't seem like they were having issues, but it definitely was very confusing. That part was just didn't really make a lot of sense, and they never really explained it, but yeah.
uh, yeah, that kind of bothered me as well, that we didn't get to know the reason why the father was leaving in the first place. Although I kind of got the impression that maybe he was getting divorced from his wife, but that they didn't want to say to the kid because there was this one
I'm
Yeah,
not.
scene.
I'm not
the way
sure
they
whether this
kissed,
is true or not.
you don't kiss your significant other that you're gonna get divorced to like that. That's a loving kiss, okay? That was
Uh,
definitely not a you know
Well,
we're getting divorced kiss.
it says the
oh,
father had to return to his controversial editorship of a city newspaper. Is why he
um,
had to go back.
yeah, okay, I forgot about the kiss, but there was this one scene. I'm not sure if it was Uncle Remus or someone else. I don't remember who said that the mother needed to realize that the child needed the father, something like that. So that was when I got the impression that the mother actually wanted to get away from the father.
I think the grandmother said that when she was trying to explain why Uncle Remus was so important in Johnny's life
Oh, oh,
to the
yeah,
mother,
yeah,
and she was
yeah,
trying to
that.
tell the mother that Johnny needs Uncle Remus. Johnny needs kids his own age. Johnny needs a father. She was trying to tell him what she felt that Johnny needed in his life, and it was explaining how important though that Uncle Remus was.
So basically, I think that they are trying to, in this very beginning, show that this was a sudden uh, uh, thing in Johnny's life. Like all of a sudden, the father like turned tail back to his newspaper post, and Johnny was like, "Well, what the fuck? You're my father. You're supposed to be like here in my life, you know."
I agree.
Yeah.
It still didn't make sense. I know
And
why he was doing.
so
He was going back to his job, but
he's got
yeah,
no friends at this moment. And okay, so he begins to like have a friendship with the little black boy
I'd have yeah.
but you know, a little boy needs a little bit more guidance and a little bit more male um role model, you know, in his life at that
Mm.
point in time. He's not gonna enjoy life entirely on his own. His mother and his grandmother are not enough, and his grandmother knows that. It's just the mother's not listening to anything. She thinks she knows how to parent. So
Well, and then poor Johnny, that poor things. That's how ends up meeting Uncle Remus, though, is he decides he wants to go find his father and find out what's going on, and he decides he's going to run away. And that's how he meets Uncle Remus, because he's listening to him telling these children stories as he's traveling down the road. He comes across them.
Yeah, I like how Remus is like, "Oh, you're gonna run away," instead of trying to say you shouldn't do that or don't do that, and then goes, "Oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna go with you." And would you like that? I like how he played along with it, and then when
well,
Johnny decided that he didn't want to run away, he's like, "Oh darn!" And I was looking forward to it. And then Johnny's like, "Well, we can still go." And he's like, "Oh no, no, I can handle it." He did that so well. He made it look like it was Johnny's idea not to go, and he totally let Johnny decide everything for himself. Just told him the story to make him think that maybe leaving's not a good idea. So he did it in such a great way. It was very, it was very cool the way he did
yeah,
it. The way
and
instead of just
by
telling him what
this
to do.
by this time there was a search party for Johnny, and amongst them is Hattie McDaniels, who uh, is also from Gone with the Wind, which we covered some time ago, and I thought it was interesting how that was also a film that was set in the um, what was that R name? The that era that it was set into that we've mentioned before.
The Civil War. The Reconstruction period.
The Reconstruction era, which is basically the country is basically picking up where and picking up the pieces left after this like bloody war that was going on between the states. So
Mm.
it yeah, I just thought it was interesting how Hattie McDaniels had a pivotal role in that film, and it was set in the same era. So, but
And she's kind of doing some of the same um,
roles,
position.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but basically, Uncle Remus says, "Hey, why don't you go tell them that he's with me?" You know. So, and
I want to see him.
the first animation sequence was called something with a dollar. What was it, Tammy?
Briar Rabbit earns $1 a minute.
uh,
And what did
uh,
it entail? Does anyone remember?
I'd
What?
like to earn $1 a minute.
He got caught by the fox and got the bear to change places with him because he convinced the bear he was making $1 a minute by hanging there.
well, uh, one thing there was that was one moment when I kind of had an issue with the rabbit character. Like, why did he have to lie to the bear? Why couldn't he just say, "Hey, I'm trapped. Please set me free"?
Because the bear was a bad guy and you just didn't know about it.
But the bear, I don't remember the bear being a bad guy until the rabbit lied to him.
Yeah, well, that's because you probably didn't know he was already. He was probably already friends with the fox and was a bad guy. You just didn't know it, and he explained that. It was pretty
Oh,
obvious that they had already been friends, but the bear, you just didn't recognize that, I guess.
But the whole
oh,
idea of the story was to get Johnny to realize that, not to run away because that's how Briar Rabbit got caught, but because he was going to run away.
yeah.
So ultimately, after that he was able to convince young Johnny to come home and kind of deal with his situation. And somewhere in here, he meets a little girl named Jenny who lives on a farm. Ah, yes.
She
I
gives him
guess
the
his
dog.
grandmother makes him a frock, a lacy collar, and he's got to wear it. And I guess there's this moment where I like this little moment. The little black boy, I forget his name.
Toby.
Toby. I'll call him Toby. He's got this frog that he's playing around with, and it keeps jumping loose from him, and he finally sticks it on his head and under his hat. And I guess they're supposed to dog,
That was after he got the dog and stuff. So you skipped ahead.
Okay.
But it was funny. But yeah, he meets Jenny because he's wearing that lacy thing on his outfit that his other grandmother made, his father's mother, and he's wearing it, and the boys are making fun of him, and
Calling him a sissy.
I don't believe in bullying, but I kind of don't blame the kids for that. I mean, the lacy was bad,
I don't believe in bullying either,
and
but
I probably would have at that age as well, or even older. I tell you now, a friend of mine at this age was wearing something lacy like that. I'd make fun of him. But anyways, so
Well,
she follows him because he's upset when she's holding the puppy, and she's like, hey, you want he asked to hold the puppy, and she's like, you can keep him because she wants to keep the puppy safe because the brothers are trying to drown him and stuff. So he keeps the puppy, and then he's like, hey, you want this lace, because she was looking at it, and she's thanks. So lace is probably great for a girl and looked great on her. So it was a good trade. He got his puppy, something he cared and loved about, and she got the lace on for her dress that made her look prettier. So that's how
yeah.
they became friends.
and wasn't it during that first dollar animation scene that we get the iconic Zippity Doo song?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. The bear was singing it too. Yep.
Zippity doo dah, zippity yay, my oh my, what a wonderful day.
Plenty
It,
of
Dum
it's
dum dum dum.
sunshine
it,
coming
it
my way.
is so iconic.
Zippity doo dah, zippity yay.
Day.
I mean, you
My
just can't
sister
help
said
singing along.
she didn't know what it was, and I was like, "Well, if you don't know zippity, then you don't know zippity."
I remember singing that in chorus in school.
Yeah, I don't know how my sister doesn't know because I sing it all the time. I know my mother sang it all the time. So she's
My
11
Nana
years
used
younger
to
than me,
sing
but
it with
still,
me.
still, yeah, I don't know how she doesn't know it, but
I think it's just as iconic in some of Disney's other movies, like the when Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, when she was whistling.
I hope,
Yep,
I hope it's
yep. Disney
And the
is
thing
known
is, the
for.
song is so iconic. With all the controversy for this movie, that song is so iconic. Isn't that kind of weird?
Well, isn't Snow White racist? Why is she gotta be Snow White? I'm just kidding. I'm surprised nobody said that yet, though.
Anyways,
Mm.
so basically, after little Johnny, he runs away from the boys from being uh, critically, um, called a sissy and all that jazz. He That's when he fully meets Jenny for the first time, and he trades her the frock lace thing for the dog, and she just automatically like hands him over like here you can have him.
Like I
Um,
said, she was trying to protect. She said also she made him promise as long as you treat him right, because she was trying to protect the dog because the dog was, the brothers were trying to drown the dog and mistreat the
oh yeah,
dog.
the
And
brothers were pure evil, pure and simple.
yeah,
they were
Yes.
they were devils in their
if
own
you
right.
watch the story, it's pretty much like the two boys or the wolf and the bear, or
Well,
vice
yeah,
versa.
even when little
Um,
Johnny was running away, I could picture the Briar Rabbit as him.
yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
but I think that's a detriment to the telling as well. And Uncle Ramus,
Why would it be detrimental?
well, because these stories are so good. I mean,
Detrimental means it's bad.
well, to me, it means in a good light.
Okay, we'll look it up in the dictionary.
It can mean a positive light as well.
It cannot mean anything other than what it means.
It can mean a positive light too, if you think about it. But anyway,
I did, okay.
okay.
Zippity doo dah. All right.
Right?
Duh. Anyway,
Wow. It can mean that. Okay. Yeah. It means the complete opposite just because you say so. That's okay.
but anyways,
Well, I'm hot right now, which I'm really cold, but I'm just
brings
saying the
us
opposite.
brings us along to the second animated part of the story, which is what, Tammy?
Briar Rabbit and the Tar Baby.
And basically, what is it that goes on with this tar baby?
Well,
Mm.
the fox is trying to catch Briar Rabbit like always, and he 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 plays on that Briar Rabbit won't go by the Tar Baby without trying to talk to him, and when he doesn't respond, he um he gets caught up in the Tar Baby because he won't
Yeah, because you
respond
try
to
to
him.
punch it.
Yeah,
Yes.
because evidently he thought it was so rude that this
If you
tar
don't
baby
have
was
if you don't have good
responding.
manners, you're gonna get punched out. Is what the moral of the story is.
And I do believe that around this time, isn't there a birthday party that is for him? Um, that his mother put together, and uh, I think around this time is when the mother is starting to like dig her heels in and not like Uncle Remus telling these stories. So she basically tries to tell him, hey, um, just don't anymore.
Don't tell me any more stories.
Yeah, like the first few times, she was like, kind of. I guess she was kind of okay. She didn't get too upset. But then there's that one moment when she tells her, "I don't want you to see him again." Now that was the moment I thought something controversial was going to happen, and then it didn't. I was like, "Oh, okay, this is a Disney movie," you know. But
Yeah.
But you did
Well,
feel really sad for Uncle Remus when that
yeah,
actually finally did happen, because
yeah.
then he couldn't help himself after the first time she like told him no, you know.
Well, the little girl gets pushed down. She's
Yeah, the
crying
little
because
girl gets pushed down, and
her dress is dirty. She can't go to the party. Little boy's upset because his father's not going to be there. Now his friend's not going to be there, so he doesn't want to go to the birthday party. So he's trying to cheer them up and tell them a story. So I think the stories are helpful, and I don't understand her reasoning to say why he couldn't tell him. But again, he was being helpful. So yeah, I don't think the mother is a horrible person. I just think she's
a bad
misguided in her thoughts. Yeah.
parent.
I had issues with her character several times throughout the
Yeah,
movie.
I mean, I
Like
had issues, but
first she wouldn't let him have the puppy in spite of the fact
Well,
that
yeah,
well,
there's
I don't
also
blame that. I mean,
boy, uh,
taking care of it's more than taking care of the dog. I mean, there's cost, there's this, and the mother is not going to want or to take care of the dog, and she doesn't want to just have somebody else do it. So not letting him have the puppy is perfectly
well,
understandable. Dogs a lot of work. So
the boys decided to take it
Mm.
into their own hands and speak to Johnny's mother about the dogs. And this is when you know Uncle Remus kind of got caught in the middle, and was like, "Well, Mrs.
actually, they said they were going to tell the mother first, and he said, well, you can tell mother all you want, but don't you dare tell your mother. And of course the first thing they did is tell their mother and got their asses whooped.
And that's
They
because of Uncle
still
Remus's
went over
story.
to tell her, because they were darned and tootin' that they were going to get that dog back."
Well, they went and
Uh,
told their mother because of what Johnny said, based on the story from Uncle
Yeah,
Remus.
and that's why she said, I don't want you telling them stories anymore, which
Mhm.
and of course he tells them again, and then she's like, well, now I don't want you to talk to him anymore. So not only does Johnny lose the dog, then he loses basically his best friend. So I'm like, poor
Yeah,
Johnny,
like in succession,
Mm.
like all of
Yeah,
that shit,
yeah,
like in
yeah.
succession.
Like, what
well,
the hell?
and somewhere around here is when the third story of Briar Rabbit gets told, where I guess this is the one that I remember the most, the laughing place,
Yeah,
where
that's the
Briar
one
Rabbit.
with that's the one that he told to the little girl when she was crying and over the dress, and Johnny was upset over the party. So, yeah.
Yep, and I guess the Briar Fox had
I didn't say it
tried
was
to
your laughing place. I said it was my laughing place.
so
Because the bear
Yeah,
What
thought,
did
that
you guys
that
think
was
of? What
good.
did you guys think of the animation and all
I
the
thought it was great.
stories?
It's Disney.
Oh,
Not
yeah, it was really good. I must say, I much prefer Disney sold animation over what we have nowadays.
I love the second part when the fox throws him into the briar patch, and he acts like he's dying, and then the bear realizes that they let him go, and he grabs the fox and bops him over the head with the club because he had wanted to do that to the rabbit. All the bear wants to do is smash someone over the head with a club.
and
He
so
wants to
after
knock
that
his head off.
story,
He kept
so
saying, "I
after
want to
that
knock that
story,
rabbit's head off."
I'm gonna knock his head off.
after that story, the kids were so excited that they decided to go off in search of their laughing place. So
see the laughing
they
place.
they went back to her farm, and I guess her father was home. So she said, "Oh, I found my laughing place. That's my daddy." You know.
My
So
papa is home, and Johnny watches,
you
and
see her getting picked
Johnny
up and
watches, and
grumbling
he
a little bit.
smiles, and he's happy for her, and he realizes now he misses his pups, and then he goes to go home, and he's like, oh, "Uncle Remus, I found my happy place." Only Uncle Remus is gone.
Yep,
Um,
Uncle Remus cannot cannot stand not being himself around the place, and it seems like he's no longer needed. So he decides to sadly leave the place. But and I guess uh, his mother was outside, like somewhere in the
And, and
area,
and she acts like she doesn't know what's going on when he tells Johnny, "Oh, he left," and she's
and
acting
it
like she
just so
doesn't know.
happens that he is whatever he is wearing is red.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And so he
So
sees him
he's running
running in the
across.
carriage, and so he decides he's going to run and take the shortcut by going through the bull area. And unfortunately, the bull sees him, and yeah.
Yeah.
But for a second there, the next scene where you see all the people outside and all the people outside and stuff, the way they made it look like, I thought it was like a funeral and they had killed him. I was like, what? They killed him? At first, I thought they killed him. I should have known it's Disney. They're not gonna kill
Well,
him. But
this is what would probably happen if one of the family had a birth too. I mean, there would be nothing for the servants or the people to do. They would just be having to stand around, wait for the news, what happened, you know. But I do like the fact that even though as fuzzy as the film is, Toby, he's sitting up against this post, and at first he's in darkness, but he leans forward just a little bit, and you can see the tear in his eye, you know. And it's just heartfelt, you know. It's a heartfelt moment, and you see Uncle Remus standing outside all glum and stuff, and they're in, and then goes inside to the family, and I guess his father has finally arrived from Atlanta, um, and they're trying to get him to, get Johnny to realize that his father is there, but all he keeps saying is Uncle Remus, Uncle Remus, you know. So the grandmother is like, well, shit, I'm gonna go get Uncle Remus, you know.
yeah, I think if they knew that Uncle Remus was waiting outside, it took them way too fucking long to decide to bring him in.
Yep. So Uncle Remus comes
well,
in,
what if
and
the grandmother finally came out, decided, you know what? I don't care what my daughter says. I'm gonna go and get him.
Yeah, and like I said, it took her too long to make that decision.
and I
Maybe.
like
Mhm.
and I like how Uncle Remus does this. He says it all like nonchalantly, like um, and the little rabbit came back from his laughing place to the real world where all his loved ones are all around, and they had the laughingest time ever, or something to that effect.
Everything was satisfactual.
Everything.
Satisfaction is what he said, which he should have said satisfactory, but again, English
He
language.
says satisfactual.
No, he said satisfaction.
Uh,
See, he said satisfaction, but the song says satisfactual.
interesting. I didn't
And it
pay
should have been
attention to that.
satisfactory.
I don't think I actually disagree, but because then it makes this movie its like own thing, and it created its own language for it. So fuck you on that. But anyways,
You disagree, but then you think things are the same when they mean the opposite. So
Whatever. But anyways, now that we are at the ending, what did y'all think about that ending? Did y'all enjoy that?
Oh, I love the
Actually,
look on Remus's face when he
uh,
sees Briar Rabbit.
Oh yeah, we do have to mention that because the kids are skipping through singing zippity doo dah, and all of a sudden he hears Briar Rabbit and he turns around and was like, "What the?"
yeah, I must say I found that kind of confusing. If that rabbit and all those animated characters supposedly weren't real, then how were they suddenly there?
They
Uh,
Because
were real.
had told the stories enough that they in fact became
If
uh,
you look at Burr Rabbit, it's been around even longer than the movie. It's there's many of the stories and there's
But
books
it was
and
neat how
everything.
they made them basically come to life
Yeah,
at the end.
I mean the way he told the the Burr Rabbit stories that he told helped Johnny with his situations. But that doesn't mean Burr Rabbit hadn't already been around with many stories beforehand. So
and it shows little
mm,
Johnny and his friends being able to be a kid. I mean, be able to enjoy a little bit of imagination here is not a bad thing. I mean, a lot of
no,
us growing up are
no,
shoveled duty for lunch and you
Uh,
know
No, it's not bad. I just thought that there might be some hidden meaning to it that I maybe missed.
just the fact that he'd been telling these stories for so long. All of a sudden, he saw his imagination that he created come to life, and he was like, "I've been waiting for this for fucking years." You know,
Yeah.
what did you think about the ending there, KJ?
I liked it. I liked how when Uncle Remus went inside the house and the boy was in the bed and everyone was around. I liked the fact that when he came in there, it wasn't like they were looking at him for his race. They were just looking at him as this is the person who this boy has loved and has, in many ways, devoted himself to. So it would be the right thing to do to bring him up there to try and help the boy in any kind of way, or just, to be there for emotional support because the boy really cares about this individual. I like that. And to say that the movie was made in 1946, we
Yeah,
got to think about this. There are not a lot of movies we can say that ever did shit like that, period,
Yeah.
during that time period. Um, so no, I liked it. I liked it. I thought it was a good ending. I thought it was a really good ending.
okay.
Um,
Now that we've come to the end of the plot, let's go into production. What did y'all think about production? I know we talked about it over time, but generally, what do y'all think?
top tier, top tier production. I mean, it's Disney, so we just have to kind of go off the rip and say Disney does not make ugly movies.
No, they do not, and the fact that they throw this under the bus every time it's brought up is a shame. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, like this movie
um,
deserves a remastering. Like it
I
deserves
agree.
it.
I
It
mean,
deserves it.
granted, you'd definitely be able to see a lot of the mistakes and whatnot, and see like many of the stage elements of it. But to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing it.
I mean, I prefer the animation in this movie to Pixar. I think the Pixar movies they like shit. I mean, I'm just gonna be 100%. I think they like shit. I don't know. They're just too glossy for me. I don't know. I like older animation. It's just me personally. So,
I love the production of it too because like you said, I like the way the cartoon, the animation part in it and everything. And I think there were a lot of things in the movie looked real,
mhm.
and that's I think what I liked about it. You know, the kids playing, the kids chasing each other, the you know when they were all sitting around listening to Uncle Remus, and before he got to Uncle Remus at the beginning, and the people that were sitting there around that fire and just all having a nice time, and everything just seemed so real. It seemed like it all fit for what was going on. It didn't seem like anything was out of place. It just seemed to flow.
Hmm. No, I agree.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
I thought the production was amazing for the time. I mean, you've got live action with live animation, and this is like probably the first of its caliber at the time. So the fact that this movie has come into obscurity and they shame it, really, they shame it when it really is like a testament of its time, and Disney should have no shame in this production. In fact, it it headed a lot of their stuff. I mean, it was kind of a focal point for a lot of their productions for years into the future, and if not for this film, we wouldn't have like stuff like Mary Poppins and shit like that. So
And that's what the sad thing is, that if you read the thing about it and stuff, they've used pieces of this movie for this and that and this and this and it's like, if this movie was so bad, why would you use any of it?
That's that's actually a very good point. That's a very good
Yeah.
point. But
I think that people didn't even see it at the time and wrote some bad shit about it, and then it was publicized, and then years and years of publicly shaming the film. It just became like almost like fact for most people that this movie is a bad movie, and it's a shame because it really isn't. And
Yeah,
uh,
look at
America
what
should take a look and be like, hey, this is what America stands for.
the media can
Mm.
do.
well, the media has always been a little bitch when it comes to a lot of issues. Honestly, I mean,
Yep.
but yeah, it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame that people are so sensitive they can't look past some of their sensitivity to see there's actually a moral to this story.
Oh yeah, there is a moral that can be taken and passed on to generations and generations, and still not like.
Right.
I don't think that this film incites me to hate on another person just because of the color of their skin or anything like that.
Right, like this
So
movie's not Birth
No.
of a Nation for crying out loud. I mean, we can look at Birth of a Nation and say, yeah, Birth of a Nation really was trying to paint a certain picture, and there was no moral to that story. But this is different. This is completely different. Um,
let's see. Looking at the soundtrack to this. So these are the songs that are um, on the soundtrack. We've got Zippity Doo Dah, which was written by Ali Rubel and Ray Gilbert and performed by James Baskett. Then we got Everybody's Got a Laughing Place. Then we got How Do You Do? And Everybody's Got a Laughing Place was also performed by Nick Stewart. How Do You Do was performed by Johnny Lee and James Baskett. Sooner or Later You're Gonna Be Coming Around, which was the song. I do think that this was interesting. Hattie McDaniels had a song uh, in the film that she was singing, and Uncle Remus came around. And she was acting like she wasn't going to give him any food, and she did. You know. But evidently that was written by Charles Walcott and Ray Gilbert. Um, so that to me, I haven't seen her sing in many films, and maybe she's sung in others, but she doesn't have a bad voice. You know, Who Wants to Live Like That, which was performed by James Baskett, written by Ken Darby and Foster Carling. Let the Rain Pour Down, Darby and Carling again, but it was performed by Hal Johnson Choir. Uncle Remus Said, which was written by Elliot Daniel, Heath, and Johnny Lang, and performed by the Hal Johnson Choir. All I Want, which was written by Ken Darby, also performed by the Hal Johnson Choir. And of course, the Zippity Doo Dah Song of the South Reprise, which was performed by Bobby Driscoll, Luana Patton, Glenn Leedy, Johnny Lee, James Baskett, and the studio choir. Which I guess that was pretty much the studio choir at the time, the Hal Johnson Choir. So
Did you mention the Song of the South?
yeah, that was it. That was technically the reprise, basically.
Well, that
Um,
was in the beginning. It was performed by the choir.
yeah, it was in the very beginning too, but they kind of like split it up between beginning and end. So what did y'all? I know we touched on it over time, but what did y'all think about the music?
And also, what I think about the production is I thought it was really well done. Of course, it is
Yeah.
Disney, so animation was top notch. The physical work, the backdrop, the background, everything was looked exactly how I thought it would look. So Disney does not skimp on things, and I usually can't really say anything bad about their production whatsoever. Now, what we were asking about music?
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I thought the music was fitful for the movie. Like I said, not exactly my favorite type of music per se, but it was definitely it fit the movie. And like I said, Ziggy Doo is very very catchy, whether you like it or not. So I guess they did a good job because they definitely want kids to sing along. So having a little catchy tune is good to have for that. I thought it was
And what
good.
about
It's
what about
zippy. It's very catchy, and like you said, for kids and everything. Just like in Mary Poppins with supercalifragilistic.
Yeah, but Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is a great song.
Right.
you?
It's the same type of a thing. I think kind
Disney
of
is known for their catchphrase theme songs.
A
right.
spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. The medicine go down. The
uh,
medicine go down.
Yeah, one Disney song that often starts replaying in my mind is Cruella de Vil from
Ma-
101
You
Dalmatians.
guys are making me want to watch Mary Poppins again.
Oh, oh yeah, I love that song.
She's my
Oh
hero.
yeah.
Come on!
Hey, Cruella was a very sexy, fashionable movie. Trust me on that.
Well,
But
I was
uh,
just talking about the original.
um,
But I
fight,
agree.
get
uh,
them, bash them over the head. I don't care what you do. Get them puppies.
I want
I
my
want the
fur.
job done tonight.
I want my fur.
Anyways,
Yeah.
um, let's go into our favorite scenes or favorite characters. Starting with you, KJ.
Well, of course, I think without a doubt, Uncle Remus is at the top of the leaderboard. Um, and the second person, funny enough, is not Johnny. But actually, I did like Hattie McDaniel. Her little part in the movie, I liked it a lot. Um, and I like the grandmother. That'd be probably my third pick, and everyone else kind of can fight for whatever number. But those would be my top three characters in the movie that I liked. Because in a weird way, the grandmother sort of was kind of progressive in a way, the way she treated people for that time and for the time that the movie even came out. But it was just it wasn't shown as much in the movie though. I understand the reasons, but those are my three favorite characters.
Okay.
Well, what's your favorite scene?
Favorite scene? That's hard. There are a couple good scenes in that movie. If I had to pick a favorite scene, I think I would pick. Damn, this is hard. Mm,
If you can't, just kind of go over your favorites.
well, I love the zippity doo dah. Like I do love that whole sequence. everything from the point of, well, actually, no. My favorite scene is when Uncle Remus talks to Brer Rabbit during that scene, and Brer Rabbit is trying to board up his home because he's saying, "I'm leaving," you know. Um, and Uncle Remus basically tells him that you can't always run away from your problems, quote unquote. And I think that that's a very good lesson that even young people have to learn from a young age. Is you can't always run away from your problems. And see what happens when he ran away. He got caught up in that trap. So I think that that probably is my favorite scene in the movie, just because of the lesson that it's trying to teach, and it does it in a humorous way. And I think kids can understand it. You know.
Okay. Heading over to you, Kroll. What was a favorite
Uncle
scene or
Uncle
scenes?
Remus.
Sure.
I really like the grandmother too, like you said, and I like Jenny. I mean, I like Johnny too, and everyone else, but Jenny, yeah, I don't know. She seemed like a sweet girl, and she really tried to take care of the dog and to help Johnny out at the same time. And oh, I really like that in characters. Of course, Uncle Remus just stole the show. Stole the show. Um, as far as favorite scene, I think when like I said when the fox threw Brer Rabbit into the briar patch, and then the bear grabbed him and knocked him over the head with the club. And that was just funny, and I'd say that's probably my favorite scene.
Okay. Heading over to you, Boris. What about your favorite scene or scenes or favorite character? And if you have anything on production and music, go right ahead.
Yeah, you skipped me twice on those.
He skipped me on the other, but yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to production, yeah, I do think it was very good. Like I said, I do like Disney sold animation, and especially these parts when they were directly mixing live action and animation, like when Uncle Remus would be in the animated world, or when animals would appear in the real world. I don't know how easy or difficult that was to put together back then, so I assume it wasn't easy. So I think that's pretty impressive. And as far as music goes, yeah, as you have said, it's fitting for the time period and for this kind of movie. But yeah, it's not the music I would normally listen to for myself. Um, and as far as the favorite characters and favorite scenes go, my favorite character, although I do like Uncle Remus, I think my favorite character would be Johnny, because he always fights for what he wants and doesn't give up. And he also, as far as we have seen, he also fights for what is right. He never I don't remember him ever actually being wrong in what he was fighting for in the movie. When it comes to Uncle Remus, one issue I had with him, although Crow corrected me before the discussion, and he said that he wouldn't even be allowed to do it since he was probably working at that plantation and so on. But one thing I wish was different about him was that he I wished he would stand up more against this sexually frustrated bitch excuse for a mother. Sorry for having to use such vocabulary, but I really disliked the mother character for how she was treating Johnny throughout the whole movie, and even in the end, when she feared Johnny might die, it still took her so long to go and bring Uncle Remus inside. Like, seriously, what a fucking
Well, she
bitch.
didn't bring him in at all. The grandmother did.
Yeah, yeah, even worse.
Yeah, she was
Uh,
stubborn. She was from the South. So, uh,
She's a woman. It doesn't matter south or not.
okay, those are your words, not mine.
I said it, and I'll say it again.
uh, And my favorite scene, actually, I would have multiple. One of them would probably be when Johnny went to fight the bullies, even though he was one against the two and didn't expect Uncle Remus would show up and intervene. He was still brave enough to fight those two on his own, which I thought
It's
was pretty.
it's interesting how you focused on Johnny's character.
Yes, why is that so interesting? He kind of is the main character, isn't he?
He is the main character. I agree. And like I said, I like him, but it's not nothing against him. I just not my favorite character.
I think Briar Rabbit is more the main character, but anyways.
Ooh,
You
yeah.
have a right to your wrong opinion.
Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. They normally stink.
No, everybody has one.
Uh,
Ah,
another scene I liked was the laughing place scene with the rabbit when he tricked the fox and the bear to deal with the beast. That was it. Kind of had the Tom and Jerry vibe to me, and
Oh,
it
the
was
way he was laughing
hilarious.
was hilarious. He's like belly laughing all over the place, and I love when you said this is a laughing place, and I'm not laughing. He lives because I said it was my laughing place, not yours.
Yeah,
He laughs his
and
head off.
also, this might be a bit shocking when I say it, but I not uh, not that I liked it that way, but I did kind of like the scene with the bull, even though Johnny got it pretty bad there, and he was in danger of dying, which of course wasn't good, but. I was somewhat glad that the mother got to know what she did with her actions. That I must say she really deserved the shock of almost losing her child after the way she treated both him and Uncle Remus.
oh yeah. Heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us what you thought of production, music, and what was your favorite character and
Well,
or
I
favorite?
already touched on the music and production, so um, but my favorite character, of course, is Uncle Remus. But my second favorite character is Briar Rabbit. I like him, you know, and
Fair enough.
I just got I got such a kick out of him. He just
I just want to have him for dinner. Yeah.
Oh my.
he
Okay.
he's to me is Briar Rabbit is just what a typical little boy would be like, you know, getting into trouble and learning lessons and stuff, but it's being shown through the rabbit, you know. And I just
Kind of reminds me of someone like me because he's really smart and doesn't instead of fighting his way out, he uses his brain.
but that's what Uncle Remus is. That's part of the story, you know, that about using your mind,
Brain,
that your brain, yes.
brain of a brawn.
As far as favorite scenes, um, it's a sad scene, but I really like the scene up in the bedroom after Johnny got hurt and Uncle Remus comes up and he's talking to him, and when Johnny comes back around and realizes everybody's there, and the way everybody looked and the way everybody treated each other in that scene was I thought very powerful. So that's got to be one of basically my main favorite scene. Of course, I liked anything with the animation and and all that. That was wonderful. But
Okay. And I guess I guess my favorite character is Uncle Remus. I get a kick out of his dialogue, no matter how badly over exaggerated his, uh, I guess, English is. Um, I like how he is to everyone around him, except for when he comes up against someone who doesn't like you know the way he's the way he's explaining things to his young protege, you know,
Mm,
and it's like his best friend is like torn from him because of uh,
yeah, he is definitely a good character. I just wish he would fight more proactively for what he was, right?
unfortunately it was the times you weren't allowed to.
So I
But
said,
Mm,
you
yeah.
weren't. It was against the law at that time for an African American to speak up against a white person. So
Even after the
boss's
slavery was
daughter or not.
abolished.
Yeah,
yeah, even after all that was
they
abolished,
weren't. They still weren't
African
equal.
Americans only had so many
Yeah, they
rights.
still weren't equal. I mean, they were no longer slaves, but they still were not equal at all.
Oh.
I mean, there are even thoughts, even to this day, that some white folks have that, whole whatever. But that's a totally different can of worms, and I'm not even going to open that one. But
Yeah, shut that
Okay.
shit up.
Sorry, what did you say, Crow?
I said, yeah, shut that shit up.
but I enjoy a lot of scenes in here. I mean, I enjoy the whole zippity just like everyone else here. Um, and I do enjoy every ounce of the animation in here. I mean, this preceded a lot of animated things with live action. I always forget to mention Cool World when it comes to like live action films too. Too that was a good one too.
Underrated movie.
Yeah, definitely underrated. But
And Roger Rabbit.
I've
Roger
mentioned
Rabbit
that.
was awesome.
In fact, Tar Baby, Briar Fox, and Briar Bear show up in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and they're in the cartoon universe there. So, but yeah, I would have if I had to pick just one. I do, and I do enjoy that moment of realization of seeing his Briar Rabbit for his very own eyes that he's always told the kids about, but that it was like a fourth wall breaker for the audience, breaking that moment, like holy shit. Yeah, like that M&M commercial with Santa Claus. Oh my God, you are real. You know.
He's real. They're real.
So,
Yeah.
but in any case, hopefully, hopefully you as an audience have enjoyed our discussion on A Song of the South. I know it is a very controversial film to a lot of people out there, but it really isn't. And
Yes and no, folks. Tell them,
should
suck it
all
up,
get down
buttercups.
off your high horses and realize what pure messages this film entails, and forget all the history of well, not forget it, but I'm trying to give a message here. Like, I think a lot of it was overstrewed, misconstrued, not like fully like sat down and went with an idea that this movie was bad. I mean, it really isn't. So, um, like, share, and subscribe, and let us know down in the comments what you thought. And whose turn is it next week?
Boris.
Yeah, I think it's me.
So, have you figured out what you want us to talk about yet?
Yes, I have. Just not sure if I should reveal it now or keep it a surprise for our audience.
I guess that's up to you.
Ooh, then maybe I will let it be a surprise.
But at least let us know so that we can fucking find the film and like go and watch it and shit. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah, I will let you know.
not midweek, at least after the show. But in any case, thank you for coming
Tell
on,
me
Kate.
and make Dave wait like he made us wait.
It was a pleasure, and everyone's start singing it. Come on, zippity doo
Zip
dah,
doo dah,
zippity
zippity day.
my
My
oh my,
oh my
what